The bathroom mirror had a crack running from the top right corner down to the middle. It had been there for weeks, but Rachel hadn't bothered to replace it. Something about that jagged line cutting through her reflection felt appropriate these days. "Mom, I can't find my blue shirt." 11-year-old Ethan's voice echoed from down the hall. Rachel closed her eyes and counted to 3 before answering. "Did you check the dryer? I told you I did laundry yesterday." It had been 4 months since Mark had moved out. 4 months of being both mom and dad to Ethan and 16-year-old Lily. 4 months of stretching her teaching salary to cover a mortgage that was meant for 2 incomes. 4 months of pretending she was fine whenever anyone asked. "It's not there," Ethan called back, frustration evident in his voice. Rachel sighed and walked to the laundry room, where she found the blue shirt sitting right on top of the pile in the dryer. She grabbed it and headed to Ethan's room, finding him sitting on the floor surrounded by scattered clothes. "Right in the dryer, just like I said." She handed it to him, trying to keep the weariness out of her voice. "Oh," he mumbled, quickly pulling it over his head. "Sorry." Rachel ruffled his hair. "It's okay. Just hurry up or we'll be late." The morning routine continued as it always did. Hurried breakfast, last-minute homework checks, the frantic search for keys that somehow always ended up under a pile of mail. They made it to the car only 5 minutes behind schedule, which Rachel counted as a win. As she drove Ethan to school, she glanced at him in the rearview mirror. He was quiet, staring out the window with a serious expression that no 11-year-old should wear so regularly. "Everything okay, buddy?" she asked. He shrugged without looking at her. "Dad called last night when you were in the shower. He said he might not make it this weekend." Rachel gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Did he say why?" "Work stuff," Ethan replied, his voice flat. "He said he'd make it up to me." The familiar anger rose in Rachel's chest, but she swallowed it down. "I'm sure he will," she said, knowing how empty the words sounded. After dropping Ethan off, Rachel sat in the school parking lot for a moment, forehead pressed against the steering wheel. She was going to be late for her first class, but she needed these few seconds to pull herself together. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister, Jenny. "Coffee after work? You can't say no. I haven't seen you in weeks." Rachel smiled faintly. Jenny had been her rock through everything, offering help with the kids, bringing over dinner when Rachel couldn't manage to cook, and never pushing too hard when Rachel withdrew into herself. "Sure. For 30 at Carl's," she typed back. The day at school dragged on. Rachel taught her English classes on autopilot, discussing The Great Gatsby with seniors who were more interested in their phones than Fitzgerald's symbolism. She had once loved teaching, finding purpose in opening young minds to literature. Now it was just another thing she had to get through. During her lunch break, Rachel checked her email and found one from Mark's lawyer regarding the house. They wanted to discuss selling it and splitting the proceeds. Rachel's stomach twisted. The house was the only stable thing the kids had left, and the thought of uprooting them again made her feel ill. When her last class ended, Rachel gathered her things and headed to meet Jenny. The coffee shop was busy, but her sister had already claimed a corner table and waved her over. "You look terrible," Jenny said bluntly as Rachel sat down. "Thanks. Just what every woman wants to hear. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm worried about you, Ratch." Rachel stared into her coffee. Mark might not show this weekend. Again. And now his lawyer is talking about selling the house. Jenny reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "What did your lawyer say?" "That I should consider it. Property values are up, and the money would help with a smaller place. But you don't want to sell." "It's not about what I want anymore," Rachel said. "It's about what's practical." They talked for an hour, Jenny offering solid advice, mixed with occasional jabs at Mark that made Rachel smile despite herself. When they finally said goodbye, Rachel felt slightly lighter. At home, she found Lily in the kitchen making pasta. Her daughter had started cooking dinner a few nights a week without being asked, one of many ways she'd stepped up since the divorce. "Hey, Mom," Lily said, stirring the sauce. "I'm making that thing with the garlic bread you like." Rachel set down her bag and wrapped her arms around Lily from behind, resting her chin on her daughter's shoulder. "When did you get so grown up?" Lily leaned back into the hug. "Someone had to," she said, her attempt at a joke not quite hiding the truth behind it. After dinner, when the kids were in bed, Rachel sat at the kitchen table with bills spread out in front of her. The numbers didn't add up, no matter how many times she calculated them. Something would have to give. She picked up her phone and opened Mark's contact. Her finger hovered over the call button for a long moment before she put it down again. Instead, she opened her laptop and typed "part-time jobs for teachers" into the search bar. The cracked mirror in the bathroom had shown her a broken reflection for months now. Maybe it was time to stop seeing herself that way. Maybe it was time to pick up the pieces and create something new, something that might not be perfect but would be whole in its own way. Rachel closed the laptop and took a deep breath. Tomorrow, she would call her lawyer and discuss options for keeping the house. Tomorrow, she would look for ways to increase her income. Tomorrow, she would take one small step forward. For tonight, though, she allowed herself to feel the weight of it all, tears silently tracking down her face as she sat alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by bills and the remnants of the life she'd thought would last forever. The alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., and Rachel groaned as she reached to silence it. 3 weeks into her new routine, and mornings hadn't gotten any easier. She dragged herself out of bed, pulled on her workout clothes, and tiptoed past the kids' rooms. The living room floor became her makeshift gym as she followed along with a workout video on her tablet, volume barely audible. The exercise wasn't about getting in shape, though that was a nice side effect. It was about carving out 30 minutes that belonged solely to her before the day's demands began. When she finished, sweaty and slightly more awake, Rachel showered quickly and started breakfast. The smell of coffee filled the kitchen as Lily stumbled in, hair disheveled and eyes still heavy with sleep. "Morning," Lily mumbled, reaching for a mug. "There's eggs and toast," Rachel said, sliding a plate toward her. "Is Ethan up?" Lily shook her head. "I knocked, but he just grunted at me." Rachel checked the time. "I'll go get him. We need to leave in 20 minutes. In Ethan's room, she found him buried under blankets, only the top of his head visible. "Come on, buddy. Time for school." "I don't feel good," came the muffled response. Rachel sat on the edge of his bed. "What doesn't feel good?" "My stomach. And my head." She placed a hand on his forehead. "No fever." "Ethan, is something happening at school? This is the 3rd time this month you've said you're sick." He was quiet for so long that Rachel thought he might have fallen back asleep. Then, in a small voice, "Jake said his parents got divorced because his mom was boring. He said that's probably why Dad left too." Rachel's heart sank. "Oh, Ethan, that's not. And now you're always tired and serious. You don't laugh anymore." The words hit her like a physical blow. She pulled the blanket down to see his face, his eyes red-rimmed and avoiding hers. "Your dad and I had problems that had nothing to do with you or Lily," she said softly. "And you're right, I haven't been laughing much. But that doesn't mean it's forever. Promise." His eyes finally met hers. "I promise. Now come eat something before we're late." That conversation stayed with Rachel all day, through her classes and faculty meeting. Had she been so wrapped up in survival that she'd forgotten how to live? Had the kids lost both parents in different ways? After school, instead of heading straight home, Rachel drove to the community center where she'd seen a flyer for evening classes. The lobby was busy with people coming and going from various activities. "Can I help you?" asked a friendly woman at the front desk. "I'm interested in the part-time job posting," Rachel replied. "For the adult education program?" The woman, Diane, according to her name tag, smiled. "Perfect timing. We just lost our creative writing instructor. Do you have experience?" Rachel nodded. "I teach high school English, and I used to run writing workshops before I had kids." "Wonderful. It's just 2 evenings a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6:30 to 8:30. The pay isn't amazing, but it's fine," Rachel interrupted. "I need the extra income, and honestly, I need something for myself too." She filled out the application on the spot, and Diane promised to call her the next day. As Rachel drove home, she felt a small spark of excitement, the first she'd felt in months. When she walked through the door, the house was unusually quiet. She found Lily at the kitchen table, books spread out around her. "Where's Ethan?" "Dad picked him up," Lily said without looking up from her homework. "He called and said he wanted to take him for dinner to make up for missing last weekend." Rachel set down her bag. "He didn't call me." Lily shrugged. "He said he texted you." Rachel checked her phone and found a message from Mark sent during her meeting. "Taking Ethan for dinner. Back by 8. She bit back her frustration. Co-parenting was still new territory, full of missteps and miscommunications. At least Mark was making an effort with Ethan. "Are you hungry?" she asked Lily. "We could order pizza." Lily looked up, surprised. "On a Tuesday?" You always say takeout is for weekends only. I'm making an executive decision to change the rules, Rachel said, pulling out her phone. Besides, I have news. I applied for a part-time job teaching creative writing at the community center. Really? Lily closed her textbook. That's cool, Mom. They ate pizza at the kitchen table, and Rachel found herself telling stories about her college days when she'd led writing groups and dreamed of publishing a novel. Lily listened, asking questions and laughing at Rachel's more embarrassing memories. You should write again, Lily said as they cleared the plates. You get this look on your face when you talk about it, like you're more awake or something. Rachel paused, a plate in hand. Maybe I will. That night, after Ethan returned from dinner with Mark full of stories and a new action figure, Rachel sat at her desk for the first time in years. She opened a blank document and began typing, just a few paragraphs about a woman standing at a crossroads. It wasn't much, but it felt like unlocking a door that had been closed for too long. The next day, Diane called to offer her the teaching position. Rachel accepted immediately and spent her lunch break reworking the family calendar to accommodate the new schedule. Jenny agreed to watch Ethan on teaching nights, and Lily insisted she was old enough to be home alone for a few hours. By Friday, Rachel had her first lesson plan prepared and had contacted her lawyer about fighting to keep the house. The numbers were still tight, but with the additional income and some budget adjustments, it might be possible. When Saturday morning came, Rachel surprised the kids by announcing they were going to the farmer's market instead of doing chores. But what about the laundry? Ethan asked, confused by the break in routine. Laundry will still be there when we get back, Rachel said, grabbing her purse. I want cinnamon rolls and fresh air. At the market, they wandered through stalls of vegetables, homemade bread, and local crafts. Rachel bought flowers for the kitchen table, an unnecessary expense that felt strangely important. As they walked back to the car, arms full of bags, Ethan spotted a street performer playing guitar. He stopped to watch, tapping his foot to the rhythm. Can we stay for one song? He asked. Rachel nodded, and they stood in the sunshine listening to the music. When Ethan spontaneously started dancing, his awkward moves drawing smiles from passers-by, Rachel felt a laugh bubble up from somewhere deep inside her. She couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed like that, full and unrestrained. Ethan grinned at her. You promised you'd laugh again, he said. Rachel pulled him into a hug. So I did. The steps forward were small, a part-time job, a writing practice tentatively resumed, a Saturday at the market instead of drowning in chores. But for the first time since Mark had left, Rachel could see a path emerging through the wreckage, leading not back to what was lost, but towards something new and undefined. Something that could, with time and care, become whole. Rachel's first night teaching at the community center left her with a pleasant kind of exhaustion. The classroom had been filled with an eclectic mix of people, a retired accountant who wanted to write mystery novels, a shy college student working on poetry, a middle-aged woman documenting her family's immigration story. Their enthusiasm had been contagious. How'd it go? Jenny asked when Rachel picked up Ethan from her house. Good. Really good, actually, Rachel said, surprised by how true it felt. I forgot how much I like teaching adults. They're there because they want to be, not because the state says they have to pass English. You look different, Jenny observed. More like your old self. Rachel smiled. I don't think I can be my old self anymore. But maybe I'm finding a new version that works. At home, Lily was waiting up despite the late hour. So, she asked as soon as Rachel walked through the door. Were they all aspiring novelists? Any hidden geniuses? Rachel laughed. Just regular people who love words. Though there is this one guy, Ben, who writes science fiction that's actually pretty fascinating. She kicked off her shoes. How is everything here? Fine. I finished my history paper and made Ethan do his math homework. He only complained for like 20 minutes, which is a new record. As the weeks passed, Rachel's Tuesday and Thursday evenings became sacred time. She looked forward to the discussions, the writing exercises, the way her students' faces lit up when they read something they were proud of. The extra money helped with bills, but it was the rediscovered sense of purpose that mattered more. Her own writing had become a regular habit too. 30 minutes each morning before her workout, words flowing more easily with practice. She wasn't sure what it was becoming, but the act itself felt healing. One Thursday in early December, Rachel was packing up after class when Ben approached her desk. He was in his early 40s with kind eyes and a thoughtful way of speaking that made everyone in class listen closely. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "Your feedback on my last piece really helped me figure out what was missing." Rachel smiled. "Your writing is strong. You just needed to let your characters breathe a little. Listen, a few of us were going to grab coffee at that place across the street. Would you like to join us?" Rachel hesitated. She'd been careful to maintain a professional distance from her students, even though they were all adults and this wasn't a formal school setting. "It's just coffee," Ben added, as if reading her thoughts. "As a thank you for being a great teacher." She checked her watch. Jenny had agreed to keep Ethan until 9:30. "Sure," she said finally. "That sounds nice." The coffee shop was warm and inviting after the cold December air. Rachel sat with Ben, Mary Ann, the woman writing her family history, and Chris, a firefighter working on a children's book, at a corner table. The conversation flowed easily from writing to books they loved to their daily lives. "So what got you into teaching writing?" Mary Ann asked Rachel. "I've always loved it. I teach high school English during the day, but this is different. More creative freedom. And you have kids, right?" Ben asked. "You mentioned a son and daughter." Rachel nodded. "Ethan is 11 and Lily is 16. They're the reason I needed this part-time gig, actually. Single mom budget is no joke." "I hear that," Chris said. "My ex and I split last year. Juggling schedules is like solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded." The conversation shifted to the challenges of co-parenting and rebuilding after divorce. Rachel found herself sharing things she rarely talked about. How lonely Friday nights felt, the constant worry about money, the guilt over how the divorce had affected the kids. "The hardest part is feeling like I've lost my identity," she admitted. "Like I'm just a walking to-do list now." Ben nodded. "After my wife died, I felt like that for a long time. Just going through the motions. Writing helped me find my way back." The simple acknowledgement of shared struggle felt unexpectedly comforting. By the time Rachel realized she needed to leave, almost an hour had passed in what felt like minutes. As they bundled up to face the cold, Ben walked her to her car. "This was nice," he said. "We should do it again sometime." Rachel felt a flutter of something she hadn't experienced in years. Not quite attraction, or not only that, but connection. The possibility of someone seeing her as more than a mother, a teacher, an ex-wife. "I'd like that," she said. The next Tuesday, Ben was waiting with a coffee for her before class. "2 sugars, right? I noticed last time." And Rachel accepted it with a smile that felt new on her face. At home, changes were happening in subtle ways. Ethan had joined the school science club and came home talking excitedly about their project to build mini solar-powered cars. Lily had started having friends over again, filling the house with teenage laughter that had been absent for too long. One evening, Rachel came home from the grocery store to find Lily sitting at the kitchen table with a boy Rachel recognized as Jason from her math class. "Mom, this is Jason," Lily said, her cheeks slightly flushed. "We're working on calculus." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Wilson," Jason said politely. "It's Ms. Cooper now, actually," Rachel corrected gently. It still felt strange saying it out loud. "But you can call me Rachel." After Jason left, Lily helped put away the groceries. "Is it weird," she asked suddenly, "having your old name back?" Rachel considered the question. "A little, but it also feels right, like reclaiming something that was always mine." Lily nodded. "I think that's cool." She paused, seeming to gather courage for her next words. "I saw you texting someone last night. You were smiling at your phone." Rachel felt her face warm. "Was I? Mom, is there someone you like?" "It's okay if there is. We're just friends," Rachel said. "His name is Ben. He's in my writing class." Lily raised an eyebrow. "Friends who make you smile at your phone like a teenager?" "It's not. We haven't." Rachel stumbled over her words. "It's complicated. Because of Dad, partly, and because of you and Ethan. I don't want to confuse things or rush into anything." Lily put the cereal box in the pantry and turned to face her mother. "Mom, you've spent the last year taking care of everyone else. Maybe it's okay to let someone care about you for a change." The wisdom in her daughter's words took Rachel by surprise. When had Lily grown so perceptive, so mature? That night, when Ben texted to ask if she wanted to get coffee before class on Thursday, Rachel replied with a yes before she could overthink it. The coffee date, and it was a date, Rachel admitted to herself, was easy in a way she hadn't expected. They talked about books and teaching and Ben's work as an engineer. He asked questions about her writing and actually listened to the answers. When their hands brushed as they both reached for a napkin, neither pulled away too quickly. "I like spending time with you," Ben said as they walked to class. "I'd like to do more of it, if you're open to that." Rachel took a deep breath. "I'd like that too, but I need to take things slowly. My kids, of course," he said. "I understand. No pressure." As December progressed, Rachel found herself facing the first holiday season since the divorce with less dread than she'd anticipated. She and Ben met for coffee regularly, sometimes just the two of them, sometimes with others from the class. He never pushed for more than she was ready to give, content to build a foundation of friendship first. At home, she hung lights and decorated the tree with the kids, started a new tradition of hot chocolate and board games on Sunday evenings, and even invited Mark to join them for Christmas Eve dinner, a gesture of peace for the kids' sake that surprised everyone, including herself. When Ginny asked about Ben over lunch, Rachel found herself smiling. "We're taking it slow, but he's good, kind, easy to talk to." And Ginny prompted, "And when I'm with him, I feel like me again. Not just mom or teacher or ex-wife, just Rachel." The unexpected connections with her students, with Ben, even the evolving relationships with her children, had formed a new kind of safety net, different from what she'd had before, but strong in its own way. Each thread represented a choice to reach out instead of withdraw, to begin again instead of simply enduring. Rachel wasn't naive enough to think the hard parts were over. There would still be tight months financially, difficult conversations with Mark, moments when grief ambushed her. But for the first time, she could envision a future that wasn't just about surviving, one where joy and connection weren't distant memories, but daily possibilities. January brought a fresh start and new challenges. The community center classes resumed after a 2-week holiday break, and Rachel found herself looking forward to seeing Ben again. Their text conversations had continued through the holidays, growing more personal as they shared small details of their days. "He's coming for dinner on Friday," Rachel told Jenny over the phone. "To meet the kids." "Big step," Jenny replied. "Are you nervous?" "Terrified," Rachel admitted. "What if they don't like him? What if it's too soon? Or what if it goes perfectly fine and you're worrying for nothing?" Rachel laughed. That would be a nice change. She spent Thursday evening cleaning the house and preparing Ethan and Lily for the visit. "He's just a friend from my writing class," she emphasized, downplaying her growing feelings to protect everyone involved. "Mom, we're not babies," Lily rolled her eyes. "We know what dating is." "We're not exactly dating," Rachel said, though the distinction felt increasingly arbitrary. "We're just getting to know each other." "Whatever you say," Lily replied with a knowing smile. When Friday evening arrived, Rachel changed outfits 3 times before settling on jeans and a soft blue sweater that Ginny always said brought out her eyes. She was chopping vegetables for a salad when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Ethan called, racing to the door before Rachel could stop him. She heard the murmur of voices in the hallway. Then Ethan led Ben into the kitchen. He was carrying a small potted plant and a box of chocolates. "The flowers are for you," he said, handing Rachel the plant. "And the chocolates are for everyone, though I was told by reliable sources that Ethan has a particular fondness for caramel." Ethan's eyes widened. "How did you know?" Ben winked. "Your mom might have mentioned it." Dinner went more smoothly than Rachel had dared hope. Ben was good with kids, asking Ethan about his science project and showing genuine interest in Lily's college search. By dessert, even Lily's initial reserve had melted. "You're a writer too?" Ethan asked Ben, scraping the last of the ice cream from his bowl. "I try to be," Ben smiled. "Your mom's a much better teacher than I am a student." "She's always been good at explaining things," Ethan said. "Even when I don't get my math homework, she figures out a way to make it make sense." The simple compliment warmed Rachel's heart. After dinner, Ethan insisted on showing Ben his collection of science fiction action figures, and Ben followed him with genuine enthusiasm. "He's nice," Lily said quietly, helping Rachel load the dishwasher. "Not trying too hard like Dad's girlfriend." Rachel froze. "Mark has a girlfriend?" Lily's face fell. "I thought you knew. She came along on our last weekend visit. Melissa or Melanie or something. She works at his office." "Oh." Rachel resumed rinsing plates, processing this new information. "No, he hadn't mentioned her. She kept calling us kiddos and trying to take selfies with us," Lily continued. Ethan hated it. Rachel felt a complicated tangle of emotions, surprise, hurt, and an unexpected flare of protectiveness toward her children navigating yet another new relationship. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lily shrugged. "I didn't want to upset you." "Lily, you can always tell me things, even if you think they might hurt my feelings. I'm the parent. I'm supposed to be taking care of you, not the other way around." "I know," Lily said, "but sometimes it's easier to just deal with stuff myself." When Ben left that night, he hugged Rachel at the door. "Your kids are amazing," he said. "Thank you for letting me meet them." "They liked you," Rachel smiled. "Especially Ethan. He doesn't usually warm up to people so quickly. Does that mean I can see you again?" "All of you." Rachel nodded. "I'd like that." The following Tuesday, Rachel left school feeling drained after dealing with a particularly difficult parent who blamed her for their child's failing grade. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mark as she walked to her car. "Need to talk about spring break plans. Can you call when you have a minute?" She sighed and called him from the parking lot. "Thanks for calling back," Mark said. "I wanted to check if you're still okay with me taking the kids to my parents' lake house for spring break." "That was the plan," Rachel replied. "Has something changed?" There was a pause. "Not exactly. I just wanted to let you know that Melanie will be coming with us." Rachel's grip tightened on the phone. "Melanie, my girlfriend. I think it would be good for the kids to spend some time with her." "The girlfriend you didn't tell me about?" "The one the kids have already met." Mark's tone cooled. "I didn't realize I needed your permission to date, Rachel." "You don't," she said, struggling to keep her voice level. "But a heads up would have been nice before you introduced someone new to our children. Like you did with Ben." Rachel felt her face flush. "How do you?" Ethan mentioned him. Said he came for dinner and knew all about his favorite chocolates. "That's different. I told you I was seeing someone." "You mentioned a friend, not a boyfriend." Rachel took a deep breath. This wasn't a competition, and turning it into one would only hurt the kids. "Look, all I'm asking is that we communicate better about the people we bring into the kids' lives. For their sake." There was a long pause. "Fine," Mark finally said. "I should have told you about Melanie sooner. But the lake house plans stand." "Okay," Rachel agreed, too tired to argue further. "Text me the details." She ended the call and sat in her car, emotions churning. The hurt wasn't about Mark dating someone new. That wound had mostly healed. It was about feeling excluded from decisions that affected her children. Rachel was still distracted when she arrived at the community center that evening. Ben noticed immediately, catching her hand as they walked to class. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just ex-husband drama," she sighed. "Nothing new." After class, they sat in his car talking. Rachel found herself sharing her frustration about Mark's girlfriend and the spring break plans. "I know it's silly to be upset," she concluded. "We're divorced. Of course he's dating." "It's not silly," Ben said. "You're not upset about him having a girlfriend. You're upset about being left out of the loop when it comes to your kids." The simple validation released something in Rachel. For months, she'd been so careful about being the good ex-wife, never complaining, always accommodating, that she'd buried her own legitimate feelings. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for seeing that." Ben's hand found hers in the darkness of the car. "I see you, Rachel. All of you." The moment felt weighted with possibility. When he leaned toward her, Rachel met him halfway, their kiss gentle and questioning at first, then deeper as months of cautious friendship gave way to something more honest. When they finally pulled apart, Rachel felt breathless, like she'd been underwater for a long time and had finally come up for air. "I've wanted to do that since October," Ben admitted. Rachel smiled. "Me too." The weeks that followed brought a new dimension to their relationship. Ben became a regular presence at weekend dinners and movie nights. He helped Ethan with his science project and talked books with Lily. Rachel found herself rediscovering parts of herself she'd forgotten. The woman who laughed easily, who had opinions about movies, who enjoyed lazy Sunday mornings reading in bed. But fault lines began to appear in small ways. Ben lived an hour away, making spontaneous visits difficult. His job as an engineer sometimes required travel, and Rachel's schedule was already stretched thin between teaching, writing, and parenting. "Why don't you stay over?" Ben asked one night after they'd gone to dinner and a movie. It was nearly midnight, and the drive back to his place would be long. Rachel hesitated. "I can't. The kids are 16 and 11, not toddlers," Ben pointed out. "And they know we're together." "It's not that simple," Rachel said. "I'm still establishing boundaries after the divorce. I can't just have a life." The words came out sharper than Ben probably intended, but they stung nonetheless. That's not fair, Rachel said quietly. Ben sighed, running a hand through his hair. You're right. I'm sorry. I just miss you when I'm not with you. The tension dissolved, but the underlying issue remained. Rachel was building a new life piece by careful piece, trying to balance her needs with her children's stability. Ben, widowed for 5 years with no children, lived with fewer constraints. When he left that night, Rachel stood in the doorway watching his taillights disappear down the street. The excitement of new love was colliding with the complicated reality of her life, creating fault lines that could either crack further or be carefully navigated. As she turned to go inside, Rachel wondered which path they would take, and whether the foundation they'd built was strong enough to withstand the pressure. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon while Rachel was grading papers during her planning period. Ethan's school number flashed on her screen, sending a jolt of concern through her. Miss Cooper? This is Nurse Winters from Parkside Middle School. Ethan fell during gym class and hurt his wrist. We think it might be sprained or possibly fractured. Rachel was already gathering her things. I'll be there in 15 minutes. She called the front office to arrange emergency coverage for her last class, then texted Ben to let him know she wouldn't make it to writing class that evening. As she drove to the school, she called Mark. I can't get away right now, he said after she explained the situation. I'm in the middle of a client meeting. He might need to go to urgent care, Mark. I trust you to handle it, he replied. Just keep me posted. Rachel bit back a frustrated response. She found Ethan in the nurse's office, pale and holding his wrist against his chest. Hey, buddy, she said softly, kneeling beside him. Let me see. The wrist was swollen and already bruising. Ethan winced when she touched it gently. It really hurts, Mom. I know. We're going to get it checked out. The urgent care waiting room was crowded, and it was nearly an hour before they were seen. X-rays confirmed a minor fracture that would require a cast for at least 4 weeks. Just in time for spring break, Ethan said glumly as the doctor wrapped his arm in a blue cast. Now I can't go swimming at Grandpa's lake house. You can still go, Rachel assured him. You'll just have to be careful and use a waterproof cover for the cast. Ethan shook his head. I don't want to go if I can't swim and canoe and stuff. It'll be boring. By the time they got home, it was past 7, and Rachel was exhausted. Lily had made dinner, pasta with Jared's sauce, but Rachel was too grateful to care about the simplicity. Dad called, Lily said as they ate. I told him Ethan was okay. Thanks, Rachel said. She turned to Ethan. Do you want to call him after dinner? Ethan pushed his pasta around his plate. Not really. Rachel raised an eyebrow. He's worried about you. If he was worried, he would have come to the hospital, Ethan muttered. The words hung in the air, heavy with the disappointment Rachel had been trying to protect him from. He was in an important meeting, buddy. He couldn't get away. He never can, Ethan said, then abruptly changed the subject. Can Ben teach me to play chess? He said he would next time he comes over. The pivot was so sudden that Rachel took a moment to adjust. I'm sure he'd be happy to. Maybe this weekend. After the kids were in bed, Rachel called Mark. Ethan's okay, she said. Minor fracture. Cast for a month. Poor kid, Mark said. Is he in much pain? They gave him some children's pain relievers. He'll be fine. She paused. He doesn't want to go to the lake house anymore. Says it won't be fun with a cast. That's ridiculous. Of course he can still have fun. Mark, he's 11 and disappointed. Cut him some slack. There was a pause. Melanie's really looking forward to getting to know the kids better. The unspoken pressure was clear. Mark wanted Ethan at the lake house to facilitate his new relationship. Rachel felt a surge of protectiveness. If he changes his mind, great. But I'm not going to force him to spend his spring break doing activities he can't fully participate in just so your girlfriend can play happy family. The words came out harsher than she'd intended, but the day had worn her patience thin. That's not fair, Mark said. Melanie isn't trying to replace you. I didn't say she was. But Ethan's feelings matter here, not her plans. After the call ended, Rachel sat at the kitchen table, the house quiet around her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ben. How's Ethan? Do you need anything? The simple offer of support brought tears to her eyes. We're home. He's okay. Just tired. Can I bring breakfast tomorrow? Those cinnamon rolls you both like. Rachel smiled through her tears. That would be amazing. Ben arrived the next morning before school, bearing not just cinnamon rolls, but coffee for Rachel and a small box for Ethan. What's this? Ethan asked, examining the package with his good hand. "Open it and see," Ben said. Inside was a set of special markers designed for decorating casts. "These are waterproof," Ben explained, "so you can still shower without ruining your artwork." Ethan's face lit up. "Cool. Mom, can you draw something on my cast?" After school, Rachel promised. "We need to leave in 10 minutes." As Ethan went to get his backpack, Rachel turned to Ben. "Thank you for this." He shrugged. "It's not a big deal. My nephew broke his arm a couple years ago, and these markers were a hit. Not just for the markers. For showing up." Ben's expression softened. "That's what people do when they care about each other, Rachel. They show up." The simple truth of it stayed with Rachel all day. For months after the divorce, she'd managed everything alone, convinced that asking for help meant failing somehow. But Ben's presence, consistent, supportive, without taking over, was teaching her a different lesson. That weekend, he came over as promised to teach Ethan chess. Rachel watched from the kitchen as they sat at the dining room table, Ben patiently explaining each piece's movement while Ethan listened intently. "He's good with Ethan," Lily observed, helping Rachel prepare dinner. "He is," Rachel agreed. "But you're still worried," Lily said, her perceptiveness catching Rachel off guard. "What makes you say that?" Lily shrugged. "You get this look sometimes when he's here. Like you're waiting for something to go wrong." The insight was uncomfortably accurate. Despite months of growing closer to Ben, part of Rachel remained guarded, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "It's complicated," she said finally. "When you've had something fall apart that you thought would last forever, it's hard to trust again." "But Dad's the one who left," Lily pointed out. "Not you. It takes two people to make a marriage work," Rachel said. "And two to let it fall apart." Lily was quiet for a moment. "I used to think it was your fault," she admitted. "You were always so stressed and serious the last couple years. Dad was the fun one." The confession stung, but Rachel had always suspected it. "I know. But now I get it better," Lily continued. "You were stressed because you were doing everything. And now that Dad's gone, you're actually less stressed in some ways. Like you can finally be yourself instead of trying to be perfect all the time." Rachel pulled her daughter into a hug, throat tight with emotion. "When did you get so wise?" Lily laughed. "I have a good teacher." The conversation stayed with Rachel, surfacing again later that week when Ben suggested they talk about the future. "I've been thinking," he said as they walked through the park after dinner. "My lease is up in 3 months, and I'm not sure if I should renew it." Rachel's heart skipped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I could look for a place closer to you. Not moving in together," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "Just closer. So the drive isn't always an issue." Rachel stopped walking, trying to sort through her conflicted feelings. "That's a big step, Ben." "It is," he agreed. "But I think we're heading somewhere good, Rachel. Don't you?" The question hung between them, weighted with hope and uncertainty. Rachel thought about Lily's observation, about her own lingering fear of being hurt again, about the life she was carefully rebuilding piece by piece. "I need to be honest with you," she said finally. "I care about you. A lot. But I'm still figuring out who I am after the divorce, still learning how to be a single parent, still finding my footing. And I'm scared of rushing into something before I'm ready." Ben's face fell slightly, but he nodded. "I understand." "But," Rachel continued, taking his hand, "that doesn't mean I don't want you in my life. It just means I need time. Time I can give," he said, squeezing her hand. "As much as you need." The ground beneath them was shifting, but unlike the seismic changes of the divorce, this movement felt organic, like the natural evolution of seasons. Rachel was learning that change didn't always mean loss, that uncertainty could contain possibility as well as fear. Later that night, she sat at her desk working on her writing. What had started as a therapeutic exercise had evolved into something more structured, a series of connected stories about women rebuilding their lives after various losses. Her teacher had encouraged her to submit one to a literary magazine, and though the idea terrified her, Rachel was considering it. As she typed, the words came more easily than before, flowing from some newly accessible place within her. She was writing about fault lines, the cracks that form when lives change direction, and the surprising strength that can emerge from those broken places. Spring bloomed with unexpected opportunities. Rachel's story, the one her writing teacher had encouraged her to submit, was accepted by a small but respected literary journal. The Acceptance email arrived on a Tuesday morning while she was preparing for school. "Mom," Lily called from the other room. "Your phone keeps buzzing." Rachel checked the notification, expecting a message from Ben or perhaps the school. Instead, she found an email that made her heart race. "We are pleased to inform you that your story, Fault Lines, has been accepted for publication." She read it 3 times to be sure, then let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, appearing in the doorway with his backpack already on, cast now covered in colorful signatures and drawings. "Nothing's wrong," Rachel said, wiping her eyes. "Something good happened. My story is going to be published." "The one about the lady who builds houses?" Ethan asked. Rachel had read parts of it to him, carefully editing the more adult themes. "That's the one." "Cool," Ethan said. "Does this mean you're a real writer now?" Rachel laughed. "I guess it does, in a way." The validation came at a time when other aspects of her life were solidifying too. Her part-time teaching position had been extended for the next semester with a small raise. The lawyer had finally reached a settlement with Mark that allowed her to keep the house in exchange for a slightly smaller portion of their retirement savings, a trade-off Rachel was happy to make for the stability it provided the kids. And then there was Ben. True to his word, he hadn't pushed for more than she was ready to give, but their relationship had deepened nonetheless. He'd found an apartment 15 minutes away instead of an hour, moving in the previous weekend with help from Rachel and the kids. "Are you nervous about tonight?" Ginny asked during their Saturday morning coffee. Rachel nodded. "Terrified. What was I thinking? Agreeing to a dinner with both families." Ben had suggested it. A meal to introduce his parents and sister to Rachel and her children. "They're going to love you," he'd assured her. "Almost as much as I do." The casual declaration of love had caught her off guard. They hadn't said those words yet, though Rachel had felt them growing inside her for months. "You were thinking that it's been over a year since your divorce, and you're allowed to move forward," Ginny said now, stirring her latte. "Besides, from everything you've told me, Ben's family sounds lovely." "They probably are," Rachel admitted. "I'm just not used to being in this position, the new girlfriend meeting the family." "Well, I think it's great," Ginny declared. "And I want details tomorrow." At home, Rachel found Lily trying on different outfits, uncharacteristically concerned about her appearance. "What do you think?" she asked, modeling a floral dress Rachel hadn't seen her wear in at least a year. "Too much for dinner?" "It's perfect," Rachel said. "But why the fancy dress? You usually live in jeans." Lily shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "It's important to Ben, so it's important to you. I just want to make a good impression." The simple statement revealed how much her daughter had matured over the past year. The angry, withdrawn teen who had blamed Rachel for the divorce had been replaced by this thoughtful young woman. "His family will love you no matter what you wear," Rachel assured her. "Just like Ben does." Lily met her eyes in the mirror. "He does, you know. Love you. It's super obvious." Rachel smiled. "I know. Do you love him back?" The direct question was typical Lily. "I think I do," Rachel admitted. "But it's complicated." "Why?" "Because of Dad." "Partly," Rachel said. "And partly because loving someone means being vulnerable again. Taking a risk." Lily turned to face her mother. "Mom, you're the bravest person I know. You've handled everything this past year without falling apart. If anyone deserves to take a chance on being happy, it's you." The dinner that evening began with the awkwardness typical of first family meetings. Polite small talk, careful questions, subtle evaluations. Ben's parents, Tom and Margaret, were warm but reserved, clearly protective of their son after the loss of his wife. His sister Kate was more immediately friendly, engaging Ethan in conversation about his science projects. "Ben tells us you're a writer as well as a teacher," Margaret said to Rachel as they moved to the dining room. "I've had one story accepted for publication," Rachel clarified. "I wouldn't call myself a writer just yet." "She's being modest," Ben said, placing a hand on the small of her back. "Her writing is beautiful, honest and insightful. Mom writes about broken things becoming whole again," Lily added unexpectedly. "Like houses with new foundations." Rachel looked at her daughter in surprise. She hadn't realized Lily had read any of her work. "I found your notebook," Lily admitted. "I hope that's okay." "It was really good, Mom." The simple compliment meant more to Rachel than the journal acceptance. She squeezed Lily's hand under the table. As the evening progressed, the initial stiffness melted away. Ethan charmed everyone by offering to teach Tom chess, a game Ben's father loved. Kate and Lily discovered a shared interest in photography. And Margaret, after a glass of wine, showed Rachel old photos of Ben as a child, both of them laughing at his embarrassed protests. By dessert, the two families had found a comfortable rhythm. Rachel watched Ben interacting with her children. The way he listened seriously to Ethan's detailed explanation of his latest science experiment, the respect with which he engaged with Lily's opinions on books and movies. He wasn't trying to be their father or even a father figure. He was simply being himself, building his own unique relationship with each of them. "Your children are wonderful," Margaret told Rachel quietly as they cleared the dishes. "You've done an amazing job with them, especially given what you've all been through." "Thank you," Rachel said, unexpectedly moved by the compliment. "They make it easy to be a good mother, most of the time." Margaret smiled. "Ben was so lost after Sarah died. For years, we worried he'd never find his way back to happiness." She glanced at her son, now engaged in an animated conversation with Ethan and Tom. "We haven't seen him like this in a very long time." The evening ended with promises of future gatherings and warm hugs all around. As they drove home, the car filled with the children's positive impressions of Ben's family. "Kate said she'd teach me about digital photography," Lily said excitedly. "She uses the same camera they have at school. And Mr. Tom knows all these cool chess strategies," Ethan added. "He said we could play again next time." "So it was a success?" Rachel asked, though the answer was obvious. "Definitely," Lily declared. "They're nice. Not fake nice like Melissa or whatever her name is." Rachel smiled but didn't comment. Mark's girlfriend remained a sore subject, especially since the lake house trip had been canceled due to Ethan's broken wrist. Instead of forcing the issue, Mark had taken the kids for a weekend of movies and amusement parks, which had gone surprisingly well. When they arrived home, Rachel found a text from Ben. "My parents adore you all. No surprise there. Can I come by tomorrow after the kids leave for their dads?" The question held more significance than its simple words suggested. Tomorrow would be the first time they'd have true privacy, the house to themselves without children present. Rachel's heart quickened as she typed, "Yes, I'd like that." Later, after the kids were asleep, Rachel sat at her desk and opened her laptop. The words came easily now, flowing from some deep place within her that had been unlocked by the experiences of the past year. She wrote about families blending and separating, about the strange alchemy that turns strangers into loved ones, about the courage required to build new foundations on ground that had once crumbled. The following afternoon, after the kids left with Mark, Rachel found herself moving nervously around the house, straightening pillows and rearranging flowers. When the doorbell rang, she took a deep breath before opening it. Ben stood on her porch with a small wrapped package in his hands. "Hi," he said simply. "Hi," she replied, stepping back to let him in. The house felt different without the children, quieter, more intimate. "I brought you something," Ben said, holding out the package. "A congratulations gift for your publication." Rachel unwrapped it carefully to find a beautiful leather-bound journal, her initials embossed in gold on the cover. "It's perfect," she said, running her fingers over the soft leather. "I thought you might need something special for your next story," he said. "Something worthy of your words." Rachel placed the journal on the side table and took a step closer to him. "Ben, there's something I need to tell you." His expression grew serious. "That sounds ominous." "It's not," she assured him, taking his hands in hers. "It's just, I've been so careful this past year. So focused on protecting myself and the kids from more pain that I've been holding part of myself back from you." "I know," he said gently, "and I've tried to respect that." "You have," Rachel nodded. "You've been patient and kind and understanding. And somewhere along the way, without meaning to or planning it, I fell in love with you." The words, once spoken, lifted a weight she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. Ben's face softened into a smile that reached his eyes. "I love you too," he said. "I think I have almost from the beginning." When he kissed her, Rachel felt the last of her protective walls dissolve. There would still be challenges ahead, the complexities of blending their lives, the ongoing co-parenting relationship with Mark, the inevitable conflicts and compromises of any relationship. But standing in her living room, held in the arms of a man who saw her completely and loved her anyway, Rachel knew she had found something rare and precious, a new foundation, built not on the illusion of perfection, but on the honest acknowledgement of brokenness and the courage to begin again. Later that evening, as they sat together on her porch watching the sunset, Ben asked about her next writing project. "I'm thinking about a novel," Rachel admitted. "Something bigger than the short stories I've been working on." "What's it about?" Rachel smiled. "New foundations," she said, "and the people brave enough to build them."